Godzilla has accomplished a lot in over 50 years, and we're not going to go point by point through every single one. We're not going to debate the time that he was dancing on other planets or when he flew. In fact, never play that clip ever again, but real quick, let's hit 3 of the biggest chapters in Big G's life, the first and obvious being the original 1954 film.
On a small island near the Aleutians, the second underground nuclear test took place.
But it wasn't as good as the first one.
The celebration of monster movie cheese in popular media can make it very easy to forget what the original 1954 Godzilla movie was like. Yes, the monster looks pretty fake by today's standards, and I don't know that it was necessarily mind-blowing watching in theaters when it first came out back then. But sit down and watch this movie and keep in mind what had just happened in that country 9 years ago. Hundreds of thousands of people died in a single day in 1945. And 9 years later, the Lucky Dragon 5 incident. A Japanese tuna fishing boat is exposed to nuclear fallout from the United States testing a hydrogen bomb, killing its captain. Nearby islands were not evacuated and many suffered radiation poisoning. Memories of the incident were still very fresh in people's minds, and that same year, Godzilla was released in theaters. A monster giving off radiation from its body and radioactive breath from its maw, symbolized the danger of mankind's lust for science and illustrated how powerless people are on the path of an unstoppable force. I'm not trying to be depressing, it's not like the movie is Schindler's List or anything, but damn, just try and watch some of these scenes and not squirm in your seat.
Jesus Christ, dude!
Alright, I can only be so serious for so long. Let's shift gears, because I think at this point you get the picture. The original wasn't the dumb, cheesy special effects fest that is most commonly associated with the term monster movie in its modern depiction. Show some fucking respect. Message received. Let's instead take a moment to talk about the American version. Oh boy, I bet that was quite the shock. For US audiences to feel the emotion of what was considered then to be the opposing side when you drop bombs on their cities and have it to be told to you by the people that witnessed it firsthand. I bet they replaced all that stuff with Raymond Burr explaining what Godzilla does off screen.
Now he's making his way toward the city's main line of defense. 300,000 volts of electricity strung around the city as a barrier.
Well, that sucks. Almost 50 years later, 1995, Godzilla vs. Destroya is released. This is the second one we're looking at because it laid the king of the monsters to rest. Posters everywhere teased Godzilla dies. Evidently, the negative side of being exposed to radiation was finally catching up to him, as the movie starts with him glowing red and rampaging through Hong Kong. The film ended with him dying on screen, and a montage of the original film plays out over the credits. The world went nuts. The story was reported on by news channels all over the world. CNN ran a special tribute to the life of Godzilla, and the New York Times ran his name in the obituaries. And even though the posters and trailers for the movie flat out told you that Godzilla was going to die, people either thought it was just a marketing ploy to sell tickets, or they were just not ready to see the king pass on. Toho seemed officially done with the character for a while, and so they sold the rights to TriStar Entertainment to make an American Godzilla film. And
that's a lot of fish.
Honestly, as much as I hate to talk about this movie, I feel like we kind of need to, because with the new Godzilla movie coming out, a lot of people are still going to be thinking of the American TriStar film from 1998. So, let's get this over with. it's a steaming pile of kaiju shit. What do you want me to say? Even as just a monster movie, it still reeks. Plot points are left completely unexplained. Characters that should be smarter than they are make mistakes that teens and slasher films would think twice about before doing. And I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon by saying that 90s CG effects sucked, but holy crap, 90s CG effects sucked. But let's talk about Godzilla. That's why we're here, right? Obviously, he doesn't look like any previous Godzilla we've seen, and some still throw a fit over that part. Teach their own. Personally, I think it's fine. The whole idea of a remake is to do things differently with the original source material in mind. And while it's smaller than the previous Godzilla, and it has kind of an alien-like design, I don't have any huge objections to how he looks. What I and many people have a problem with, and it's the center point to almost 95% of the hate towards the movie, has less to do with how he looks, but more to do with how he behaves. He doesn't behave like the king of the monsters. In fact, he barely acts like a monster at all. For one thing, he doesn't breathe radioactive fire. And that's actually one of the things I'm most curious about with the new movie coming out in May. Will he breathe fire or not? Because fans will throw a shit fit if he doesn't breathe fire, but giving him that might ruin the grim and gritty tone that they're going for. Oh, right, this Godzilla. Well, okay, does this Godzilla defend humanity against some bigger force? Well, no, there's no other monster in the movie. There was going to be a second monster called the Griffin, but that idea was scrapped for some unknown reason. Okay, well, then does he terrorize the city and fuck shit up? Nope. In fact, the movie makes it a point to mention that this Godzilla is a scared animal that's just trying to lay its eggs and provide for its young. And in theory, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. When animals are frightened, they either run and hide, or they attack in self-defense. Frankenstein and the Cloverfield monster were both scared of human beings, and those worked because when they got scared, they attacked. And attacking results in death and destruction, which is the #1 key ingredient when you are making a monster movie. But inexplicably, this American Godzilla movie makes it a point that their military forces do more damage to the city than the monster. And in a smarter movie, that could make for an interesting satire or a poignant point, but this movie can't even get its own facts straight. My point is that many people couldn't see this as just a monster movie because the monster in it doesn't behave like a monster. This thing is a fucking pussy. Evidently, one of the suit actors that had played Godzilla and other monsters in Japan walked out of the premiere of the 1998 American Godzilla, and all he had to say was, "That's not Godzilla." Now, a real quick lesson in movie licensing. If you buy the rights to make a movie out of something, but then you just sit around and you don't make the movie, the person or company who sold you those rights can technically get their property back. Hence why the Amazing Spider-Man movies exist. As long as the property is being used, Sony doesn't have to give Spider-Man back to Disney. But in TriStar's case, after the American Godzilla bombed big time and proved they weren't going to make any money out of Godzilla, the 2 sequels they had planned were scrapped, and since they weren't using the license anymore, Toho got the Godzilla property back soon after, and they started making the Godzilla movies right again. And we're going to end this video on a fun little trivia fact. When Toho got their property back, they also acquired the rights to the American Godzilla character. So what they did was they officially renamed the monster Zilla, and they've gone on record in saying that they did that because they felt the monster was undeserving of the title God. And they even pitted Zilla against the classic Godzilla in the film Godzilla Final Wars. If you thought that was interesting, then tune in next week because it's going to be nothing but fun little tidbits like that I'm sure will impress absolutely no one. But when you go and see the new Godzilla in May, it'll seem like you really know your stuff. So enjoy being a big fat faker. You fake.